Aloha, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Making Love Visible. My name is June Dillinger, and I am your host. And I wanted to invite Monica Lau to share with us today because I had the opportunity to meet her in a very random way several weeks ago. She is a classical portrait photographer, and I have some questions for her, and I'd like to get to know her and let you know what this woman is all about. So, Monica, welcome. I'm so glad that you've joined me today for this 30 minutes or 20 minutes or 1 hour, whatever we can unfold to the beauty of you and for people to take a look at themselves through a portrait photographer's eyes and what that might feel like. So maybe give a quick little introduction to yourself and how did you get where you are today? That can't be possibly quick in the years that we've been on this planet, but share a little bit about you so we know how to begin this journey together.
So cute. Hi. So I've been a portrait photographer, for over 30 years. I'm starting to lose count. It came about in college when I had to take a photography 1 and darkroom 1 class as part of my graphic design curriculum. And during that first class, I got published twice in the Chicago Tribune. And then my teacher said, you should be a photographer. And that just stuck in my head. So that's kind of how the journey started. And about 5 years later, I put graphic design aside, started to knock on all the doors for the newspapers. And at the time I lived in Seattle, and they started giving me work. And by the end of the year, I started to become like the main photographer for some of the bigger publications in Seattle. And then at that point, I went, oh my God, all I had was that one black and white class. I should probably go back to school for photography. And that's what I did. I did a 3-year program. And by the end of it, I was signed to Getty Images, and they represented my images globally. And so from there, my images showed up on Good Morning America, and the Oprah Show, in Times Square, on the marquees for NBC, and Sprint, and all these amazing things. And that was really like part of the journey. And then we moved to Hawaii in January of 2000, my husband and I, and things kind of changed. I had a little studio on Nuuanu above, at the time it was Indigo, and did that until I was 8 months pregnant with my daughter, and I couldn't get up the stairs anymore. And then I kind of packed up the studio, and then over the last handful, 10, 15 years, been a transformation into doing family portraits. And now I made the shift, since my daughter's older, into doing more fine art, classical portraiture, kind of getting back to my roots with studio, and taking all those skills that I had in editorial style photography and magazine shoots and apply it to, people in our community who want beautiful portraits and heirloom pieces, and those pieces that are going to be handed down from generation to generation. So
I have all kinds of questions. One of the first start that I heard was that one of your teachers said you should be a photographer.
Mm.
And I often wonder in education how people find their path, if it's the good news somebody shared with them or the bad news somebody shared with them. And in this case, it was something that somebody saw in you that led you into your journey and into the livelihood of how you've created your life around images. So that's the first thing. And then there's magic to that and how we speak to our youth, or to anybody for that matter. And the second thing I wanted to ask was that, did you ever have a sense of I'm just going to say it, ego behind the camera, of like, I'm that great, I'm working with the Getty, or I'm that great, I'm working with Good Morning America, or did you just kind of know that you just knew that you have this this gift that is workable, because I feel your humility and your kindness and your grace. So I guess I'm sort of answering my own question, but how did you feel? How did you feel behind the camera back then with those
Yeah.
big businesses calling on you?
Well, yeah, I think you answered the question. It's, part of my journeys and my stories, how these things happen. Always grateful, always surprised. Yes, I was so lucky that that moment happened in photography class, right? Like, forever grateful that that happened. And photography came to me very easily. It was an obvious choice. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to college for career wise. My dad was an illustrator, graphic designer. So they knew if I wanted to go into the arts, it had to be more commercially bent to get the job because they're being good parents, right? And so along the way, I was lucky to find something that worked. And when I went for it, it came so quickly and so easily. It was just the right thing. So yeah, education, other people kind of helping along the way to point the way. Um, and then as things happen, they happen so fast. So it wasn't, I think ego came a little later. I think things started happening and surprised me. And so I think what happened was more my reaction to seeing my work appear in these places made me cry with joy. Like one time I was with my husband down, we went to Disney down in California, and they had that, what is it called, the Disney Walk, or where all the stores are in the big mall-y kind of thing. I forgot what they call it. But we were down there and we're kind of walking around all these stores, and I looked up and there was my picture on a like 2-3 story tall billboard. And that was how it was. I didn't always know where my images would end up because Getty's selling them in the world. And I just cried. I was like, oh my God, it feels like I made it. I'm doing something right. And that was always the feeling. I would get random calls from these um, I guess, advertising agencies looking to put my pictures in bigger places than Getty was able to provide the file sizes for. And so, just like it was on the bridge going across from like New Jersey to New York, and seeing like someone was like, hey, Monica, your pictures are on uh, the storefronts in Macy's. Like, and it wasn't just the storefront, it was like the store walls. Like, and from the street, they were like, took up the whole street and wrapped the building pretty much. And so for me, it just was always this amazing celebration, like, oh my gosh. So super happy. Yeah.
That brings me to another thought. My brother was a graphic artist for some time,
Mm.
and he sold paintings. I would call them fine art. He painted in acrylic, not oil, but some of his paintings he sold for $6,000 a piece. And there are these things called giclées where they're signed and numbered. And I remember once upon a time he created the logo for Headhunter. That it's a sunblock that's still sold in surf stores today. And he sold it once for like, I don't know, $400 or $40 back in the probably 80s or 70s when he started his graphic design. And he only sold it one time. And that logo still exists today on every single bottle that has been sold since. And I know that you put your watermark on your images. And how can you avoid people not using your product that's so glamorous? Is it an integrity thing, or how do you deal with that?
Well, so for my images that have been out there in the commercial world, right, through Getty Images, they have been used without permission, without being purchased. and I'll see them every now and then pop up, and I'll get some kind of, there'll be something that says courtesy of Monica Lau or something like that, which they clearly have never come to me for permission or whatever. Um, so years ago, I learned that it's just flattery. I just have to take it as a compliment, right? And that's it. It's like, it's out there, I'm getting paid, I'm um, lucky to be able to be working, and that people want to hire me and have me create content for them, whether it's families or previously commercial type images. And it's going to happen, and you just take it as flattery. I've had people copy my images almost verbatim for commercial use or styles, and you just take it as like flattery and a compliment, like they were,
Yeah,
and
I can see that. I do like the idea that there are hashtags now, and you can hashtag people's work, and there's that feeling of I've acknowledged them, and so then you can check the hashtag for Monica Lau, and then there's this huge collection of all your work,
uh-huh.
which is a wonderful feeling. And once upon a time, when I started my wedding business, I asked the woman that introduced me to the business. I said, I know I can do this myself, but I don't want to be competition. And she said, there's enough love and money for everyone. How can I support you? And that one liner that was the one liner that set me up for success. And I just think about that with other artists and other trades, is how does that work? And what is it in our beingness that provides that level of success? So that makes me think about another term that's come to light recently. It's NFTs, non-fungible tokens, with art and music and something. I don't even understand what the NFT is. I don't know whether that's something that you have looked into for your business, but as things are beginning to change and ownership is different and how money is transferred and shared, does that conversation interest or affect you, or do you know about it, or what can you share from your personal perspective?
um well, there's so much in the world of technology that's being developed right now. And yeah, those kind of digital content, fine art pieces that are for sale are starting to trend, and they're like the Bitcoin equivalent, right? Um, I have a friend who's starting to work in that area, like to collaborate with creatives to create those kind of things. For me, there's so many different rabbit holes you could go down, and I just kind of want to mastermind, which is, these portraits. So I have no interest at this time, but I'm a project person. So if someone's like, hey, let's do a collab and like do this, I might be like, well, I guess now would be the time. There's also like new technology coming out with AI photo editing, which is something else that's hugely taking off right at like this week, like at this moment, it's happening, which is then a collaboration between you, the creative, and the computer.
Mm,
Crazy, right?
yeah.
And right, there's so many things that are happening and developing, and it's all kind of fun and it's all kind of interesting and all possibilities. I'm not going down any of those rabbit holes at the moment because there's too many. And the same thing with the idea that you brought up earlier about competition and other people in the industry, and how you can help each other, and turning that conversation from competition to, there is so much out there, so many creative, talented, amazing people in our world, in our community. And even on our island, we have 1.5 million people. I can't serve them all. None of us can. And, I would love to be a part of as many lives as I can. I love people. That is a great journey. But let's all enjoy each other's abilities to create. And it's a sign of a strong, healthy society when we can share,
Yes.
right?
Well, at the beginning of this year, actually, that's so interesting because this morning I woke up to one of the most heartwarming texts. I mean, it's a beautiful way to start a day when a bride reaches out to say thank you 7 months later for making her wedding day the most extraordinary day of her life. And I remember I had picked up some wine glasses from Macy's, and I was setting up down at this venue down along the beach at a private estate. And I was stomping around saying, I just want to be a white-haired supermodel beauty that gets paid millions of bucks and is kind and then gives it all away. Just
Ah,
gives it all away. I just want to give it all away. Like, can I use my looks for something, for a change instead of my brains? Because I've been using my brains for a long time. I'm like, look at this white hair. Like, is it good for something? And so in this, I found myself with a modeling and talent agency on the Big Island. And I was over there a couple times. And as you know this, but I'll share it with our audience, that by way of Smart Swimsuits, which is a swimsuit that's basically, if you hold it up to the light, you can see all the way through it, but it's got this SP50 in it. And I did a little modeling photo shoot with a couple of young girls, and it was posted on Facebook. And then somebody you and I both know saw it. I guess, I don't know, it was on Facebook or Instagram, but saw that and said to me, June, are you available at 4:30 today? She called me today because Monica Lau is doing a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I quickly pulled up your website. I'm like, dang, this lady is amazing. What am I doing at 4:30? And she said, you need to go over to her studio because she's doing a fundraiser. And I guess I'm sharing this for two reasons. Number one, it was an honor to be invited into this, particularly because it was you, number one. And number two, well, maybe they go hand in hand with Planned Parenthood. And it was shortly after the Roe versus Wade turnover. And I was a victim of social rape back in the day before I even had an intimate experience ever in my life and became pregnant. And so I knew that because Planned Parenthood had helped me, I was all in. I didn't care what you wanted to do with me. I did not care. I'm like, I'm going to see Monica. I'm going to show up. She'll tell me what to do. But in this whole entire experience, I've had this, I've had to take a look at this person, the person that gets created by being photographed, how I feel about me in that, how I converse about it to the outside world, how I accept the compliments of what people think is beautiful versus what I think is beautiful. Like if I just had a little clothespin for right here, you know, and I'm going to share the screen real quick because I've got this photograph that you did, and I'd like to just pop this in here for our audience. So if y'all can see that, I hope you can see it. It's this lovely photograph that Monica took for the 2022 Empowering Women with Planned Parenthood. And she has a July portrait campaign going right now that's benefiting Planned Parenthood. And so with that, the idea of being able to share from this perspective at 60 years old that there's a way to give back and we can still be beautiful was important. And so for you, and I watched you in the studio, you have this magic and this laughter and this joie de vivre where your models or candidates or people that come in or families, they lighten up and they just do their pose. And you say, lean in, lean back, or can you just tilt on this box a little bit more this way? And so what is it that you experience that you see come out in your family and your models from this? Because you made love visible for me. You're making love visible for Planned Parenthood through your campaign, through this opportunity for people to do classic portraits with you and then giving back to the organization. So speak to me a little bit about that.
So right, the campaign got created in like 2 days. I had done this amazing workshop in Italy, a photography workshop. So I came back all inspired and like, I can't wait to bring this to my clients, right? And I got back, and that day the news hit that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And I had gotten an email newsletter from one of my mentors that I had just taken the workshop with. And she is an activist in her own right, and said, you know, as businesses, as people, we can do things about this and help support each other. And then my daughter came to me, and she was scared, right? And I told her, okay, this is what you can do about it. Like, please, don't just sit back and take it. Let's do something. You can vote. You can call your representatives. You can call representatives from other states, right? Let them know what the American people are thinking. And then I'm creating a project in my head already. And Planned Parenthood is getting hit. So let's try to support them and do it through, like, for me, I'm doing it through photography. That's what I do. So that's what I can give back, right? And how I can maybe get more attention for Planned Parenthood. So part of it was hopefully modeling it for my daughter. And so I created this campaign for the month of July. I reached out to an organization that I love. It's the Women's Fund of Hawaii, who connected me to you, fabulous woman, and then Planned Parenthood. And we got some faces for the campaign and then launched. So this month I've been actively hearing people's stories. So part of this campaign was to share personal stories about, like, why this is important to you, how your life had been affected, why are you supporting? And I'm getting all these stories, and it's really heart-wrenching, some of them, and touching. And then, so the sessions, to kind of answer the second part of what you were asking, what I bring to my portraits, and it takes time and maturity to know who you are and to have experienced life, and then be able to have, what is your message as an artist or creator? How are you taking care of your clients, and what can you give to them, and how can you serve them? And for me, like, my internal message that I tend to put on, and I started calling it my thumbprints, like my little, like, DNA, like, how am I inserting myself as the creative into my images? And it's really that celebration of existence. Like, this is our lives. Celebrate your existence, right? And we are all worthy of unconditional love for ourselves, right? And so stepping into the photo studio, I think that's one of my superpowers. It's like, let's have fun, let's make it easy and stress-free, and then give yourself permission to enjoy
Yes.
it and have fun and celebrate. And from that place of comfort and relating to each other, that comes across in the images. And that's the type of image I want to portray. And it's sort of like, if you're going to exist in photos, and maybe it's the piece that's going to be handed down for generations, what are they going to find of you someday? And how are you going to be portrayed in that image or images, right? And for me, I just kind of want to make sure there's a little bit of celebration. There's a little bit of history for me of how that came to be. Back in, my grandma, I guess, was from the 1920s era-ish, right? Or she was, they had paintings done of them back in the day, not photos.
You just went where I was thinking. I was thinking of, like, the castles where they have the kings and the queens, or
True,
the
yeah.
hallways of all the people. And that's the best part about your office, is you have real pictures
Yeah.
that are in frames
Right.
that actually exist. Yeah,
Right.
I love it. The
There.
warmth, I sort of, like, snuck right in there. I have to tell a quick piece, Monica. So when I moved from the last place to the little house I'm in now, my son saw all my photo albums, and he started caressing the pages. He's like, Mom, do you know how special these are? People have everything on their phone and they just swipe, but to be able to see this, and even the turned up papers and the yellow edges, anyway, yeah, it was pretty exciting. So your office, your studio is, oh, it's luxurious and warm and welcoming. And yeah, so back to your grandmother. Sorry, I took it away.
Oh, no, that's okay. I mean, that's really the point, right? Is to have something that's not digital. We kind of made a big, huge shift into digital photography in the, earlier 2000s, and everything became instant gratification, became on your phone, and it almost became invisible. Like, where did it go? How are you supposed to find these important images? I'm doing that now. My daughter just graduated from high school, and I'm like, it's on a CD somewhere. Do we have a CD drive somewhere to access these photos, right? And technology changes so fast for, it was jazz drives, it was CD drives, it was USB, little keys, and our computers are forcing us into the cloud. And so those devices are obsolete, and we can't, I'm too busy to like transfer all that stuff and keep it up to date. So anyhow, back to my grandma. She and it wasn't just for affluent families, it was your everyday people. Like my grandma did not grow up wealthy. That's what you did, you just got the portrait of you. And so it's like it's bigger than that. It's a big portrait of her when she was sweet 16. And that became an important genre for me in the studio, because you're never going to be more beautiful than you are in that moment, right? And so she had that portrait up forever in her houses as she moved to apartments, and then it was handed down to me. So I have that portrait now. And then in the house I grew up in, Mom had the wall, and on the wall were all the frame pieces, and some were from like the early 1900s through not me. So kind of, we had one family portrait that was over, we had a fireplace. I grew up in Chicago suburb, but there was the shift already to Instamatic cameras and things like that. And I think they're missing generations now. Like, I think our generation might have been the last to have some pictures, like senior portraits.
That reminds me, Monica, I have to show you something.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm going to do this in the middle of this, but
Yes,
this is my son.
yay.
I mean, look how big this is, right? It's like a movie poster size.
It's
Isn't that darling?
It's perfect. It's so sweet, and you have it forever and
Forever.
forever. I know. I just want to grab things from around the studio and show you guys, because like it's so fleeting.
It just crossed my mind.
Right? Especially like, I love the little kids, and they grow up so fast. And now since my daughter graduated, I'm like, oh my God, where did it go? And what I need to exist in portraits too, because anyhow. And then you brought up age, and like you're 60, and so I have this amazing client, I think you know too, Joni. And she's doing the whole sexy and 60 thing, and every generation has a thing. It's like fabulous in 50s, sexy in 60, sensational in 70, and like so I'm gonna be probably later this year. I'm hoping for maybe October, launching a 40 over 40 campaign, which will be like 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever you want. All people, all women. It's going to be a women campaign, and just that thing, celebrate your existence, your own joy, exist in portraits. You have every right to be happy in your own skin, who you are, beautiful, and create some pieces for yourself. My products come from Italy. They're beautiful. They're museum quality. At this point in my career, I didn't want to mess around. I'm not doing garbage. I want to do amazing things, amazing artwork, take care of my clients, create something that's going to be meaningful and going to be around forever. And, have that experience of giving yourself permission to have that unconditional love. Get the portraits of your little ones before they grow up, or your grandkids, or whatever it is, make those
Yeah.
pieces that exist.
I notice that most about you is the warmth that you shared in the room with myself and the two other women that you were photographing. And it makes it so much easier to relax and have fun and forget that there's actually a camera there, but there's a beautiful light behind that camera named Monica Lau. I'm feeling like I've fairly well capped off some of the most important pieces that I can think of. Is there anything that I've missed that you feel like you'd like to share?
If people want to know a little bit about the studio experience itself, my studio is in Kailua.
Yeah.
I have an indoor, beautiful studio space with multiple like hand painted backdrops that are beautiful. We landscaped also an outside tropical garden specifically for shooting, because people need to have a bit of their Hawaii home in their images. So we can take care of both looks.
That's important, because if there are viewers that are not living in Honolulu or on Oahu, this is part of the Hawaiian Islands. This is where Monica lives, on the windward side of the island. So maybe you need to come take a vacation over here if you don't already live here.
This is true. This is true. But even like people that live here, like I serve most of, residents that live on our island. And some people love the studio look, and some people want to have their tropical garden, but it makes it easier because we're not dodging rain and wind and permits and all the things. So we created it here, and we have a bathroom, and we have air conditioning, and right, all the conveniences and stuff, all the crazy. We can take breaks if little kids need to kind of have some time to play or eat or whatever.
The tropical is so beautiful, and there's parking.
And there's parking, and what else? And then most of my sessions, I include a hair and makeup artist. So we take care of the hair and makeup. We have like a consultation, so we can talk through what kind of images that you want created and talk about wardrobe. And most people don't have any ideas on how this happens, this creative process. So it's a great journey that they get an experience. And then I have amazing, like all the studio lights and glamour of like a magazine styled session and multiple wardrobe changes. So that's the experience. And then they get to come back and view their images, and then order whatever kind of beautiful products that they want to have for their heirloom pieces for themselves.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so glad I got to have that experience with you. It was just an honor to be a part of your fundraising campaign. And I would encourage anybody that is watching it. It could be for anything that you want your photograph taken. And I would say Monica's like, why not do it with her? Because she's the best. You've heard everything. You've heard everything you need to know. Plus, the energy that you hold is so welcoming, and it's so gracious. You are completely living in aloha by the gift that you give and who you be. So thank you so much, Monica, for spending, how long we've almost been on this call for 40 minutes.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yes, so I want to thank you very much for making love visible in the world the way that you do. And everybody that's watching, thank you for being present, for staying throughout the whole piece. And I hope that you find a way to make love visible in your life in the way that's magically you, because I happen to know that it is definitely in you. Even if it's buried somewhere, it's in you. So make love visible today. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Aloha.